Alrighty, radio fans, it's Monday morning and K8BYP doing radio transmitter testing. I messed with the Yaesu. It has a variable transmit receive carrier offset function, and used the S meter in the 430 just as a monitor receiver, and used the S meter to indicate relative bandwidth. And found that by setting the carriers at plus and minus 300, I could shave off about a kc and a half of bandwidth off the wrong side, which means that much more power in band. So I just got a free power increase. Okay. So a step above that is the fact that it is difficult to listen to your transmitter here on your receiver there, because they're that far apart, and they're not shielded well enough to do that without picking up any signal. They are not a spectrum analyzer. That's an SA right there, very heavily shielded, so it can have a transmitter right next door and not pick it up. So how do we know what's real signal coming out of the back of the radio, or how do we know what's being coupled between the radio chassis and inside the ham shack? First thing is, if you got mismatched fake multiband antennas and twin lead, you're done. You have no chance, because the transmission lines are not shielded and transmit with a watt, and you're lighting the ham shack up full of stray RF. The first thing I noticed, which I knew, but I'd never really seen a good clear proof of it, is that when I transmitted from the Yaesu at 5/8 of a watt, I got a significant signal on the 430. And the problem was down here that the SO connector shell was loose. Right there. Or the PL. The PL259 shell was loose. I was able to turn it by hand. So what I did is got a pair of pliers and snugged it down. And that took the signal level to down below S0. So that took off upwards of 10 dB of stray signal leakage in the ham shack. So it's necessary to tighten them. Don't need to put the nuts to it, just snug it down good, because that is not just a mechanical connection. The purpose of that shell is to tighten the body of the connector down inside here against the face of the SO adapter. So bad leakage without being loose. So we don't really want to listen in the ham shack. We want to listen outside, but an antenna is too much coupled signal, because most of us don't have 100 acres like Voice of America. We have a fraction of an acre, so the antennas are on top of each other, so that doesn't work very well. So we go outside where it's colder than a donkey's nose, and we see this. Here's the answer to sensing out in the yard. This is a RG58 with suitable adapters and a 50 ohm load resistor soldered to shield and center with about 1/2 inch of wire. Component lead sticking out, and that makes a real nice pickup. And just put that up in the air there so we can sniff out the signal. And back in a nice warm ham shack, we see that we can put that pickup on the receiver. And contrary to the lying troll that came here with a negative comment about he would be happier if I use a spectrum analyzer, I'm doing this, not you. Shut up, go away. It is a spectrum analyzer if you know how to use it. And if you're just a know-nothing button pusher, you won't. So our radios are protected to some extent from static discharge, not the spectrum analyzer. And it's just begging to destroy that by connecting it to an antenna, which is why I don't do it. Not worth it. If I want to do that, I'd buy a cheap piece of crap SA from Rigel So I don't like cheap junk. So for a spectrum analyzer test, I bring the end of that line in and connect it to this ugly concoction of adapters that is hanging out on the front panel of the spectrum analyzer. And why is it there? Well, besides inter-series adapters, right here in the middle is a PIN diode. See if I can get it so you can see it. Limiter. PIN diode limiter from mini circuits. Limited at plus 18 dB. It's a PIN diode shunt excessive signal across the line. High-speed microwave diodes. So that hopefully somebody driving by with an illegal CB amplifier won't dump enough signal into it to damage the front end of the spectrum analyzer. Now that pickup is weak enough that it takes a good 40 watts from a transmitter to light this display up. Hello, test, hello, test, hello, test. K8BYP testing. And that is at the most, at the base, down at the grass, whistling, driving the mic. That's about 3 kilohertz wide. Its RVW is set at 3 kilohertz and it's 1 division wide. So my testing into the receiver, listening and turning the S meter, gave about 2.4 kilohertz on one sideband and about 3 on the other. So the rig's 15-year-old rig's a little bit out of alignment. And there's a tiny bit of stray carrier on the upper sideband, but nobody's ever reported hearing it. And most of them out there wouldn't know what to look for anyway. So that pronounces this transmitter clean and narrow. Single sideband means single sideband. It's a narrow band emission. We don't go trying to shove 4 and 5 kilohertz of audio bandwidth in it. That's an FCC violation. We're required to have communications quality audio modulation. And again, realize the receiver is an RF receiver, and the spectrum analyzer is an RF receiver. It's just extremely broad. No difference. They're both RF receivers. They're both calibrated. The S meter is very accurate for what it is. This bar graph is next to useless. So need an analog receiver with an easy to read S meter. And that can resolve down to about the same 2 dB that a spectrum analyzer can. It's just a different format, and this takes a little more knowledge and some willing to learn and experiment to make it work. It's not just buying a box and looking at a screen. So, sorry, I won't fall for the myths and BS about how my test and measurements are not valid because I'm not using a spectrum analyzer. That's just, it's a deliberate false statement. So, sorry trolls, that won't work here. So, K8BYP did it. And especially remember about the SO, the PL connectors, make sure they're tight. 73, K8BYP. Oh, and by the way, if you're on the air this week and you can hear anything, listen for, let's see, where does call sign go? I think it was KQ4AMK. I think that's who it was. 4-foot high dipole in North Carolina. His signal wasn't extremely strong, but it was very well copied. It was 4 to 5 by 7 at peak, and with fading, it was still copyable at 3. And he's going to be using that in the North Carolina QSO party this week, if it happens, because the bands are just horrible. If you get a chance, listen for him, because his signal to me did not fade, just like mine don't, and that's what a correctly matched antenna does. And like I told him, He started off by saying he had an NBIS antenna. I said, no, you don't. There's no such thing. Your antenna is emitting sideways, and if it wasn't, under dead band conditions, I wouldn't be able to hear you. And that made perfect sense to him. So listen for him on the it should be up to 5 feet now on the low dipole.